In 793 AD, monks on a quiet island woke to screams, a nightmare no one saw coming. Who were the Vikings, and why did they explode out of Scandinavia to terrorize Europe? The answer isn't just violence, it's land, politics, and opportunity colliding at the worst possible time. It starts with the land itself, beautiful but brutally unforgiving. Scandinavia offered little farmland. Fjords and mountains left barely enough soil to survive on. As families grew larger, that scarce land became even harder to divide. For many young men, there was no inheritance waiting, only the sea and whatever lay beyond it. Scandinavia wasn't one kingdom. It was a patchwork of competing chieftains, each fighting for power. Status wasn't inherited by everyone. It had to be earned through strength, raiding, and reputation. For ambitious men with no land of their own, raiding offered a fast, dangerous path to power. Meanwhile, across the water, Christian Europe was overflowing with wealth, gold, silver, and sacred treasure. And here's the key detail. These monasteries had almost no defenses at all. To Norse eyes, this wasn't just wealth. It looked like an open invitation. But desire alone wasn't enough. The Vikings needed the means, and their ships changed everything. Their longships were fast, flexible, and shallow enough to sail up rivers other ships never could. That meant they could strike deep inland and vanish before anyone could organize a defense. In 793 AD, that theory became reality at the monastery of Lindisfarne. It was fast, brutal, and completely unexpected, nothing like Europe had prepared for. It shocked the continent and marked the beginning of what we now call the Viking Age. Word of what happened spread fast, and it wouldn't be the last time. Lindisfarne wasn't a one-time event. It was proof of concept. Word spread fast across Scandinavia. Over the following decades, raids spread across England, Ireland, and France, striking fast, then vanishing. No coastline felt safe anymore. Even inland river towns became targets, reachable by longship. In response, some communities built tall stone towers, refuges to escape into when the ships arrived. By the mid-800s, raiding wasn't sporadic anymore. It had become a systemic threat across the continent. By 865, raiding evolved into something bigger. A massive force known as the Great Heathen Army landed in England. This wasn't a hit-and-run raid anymore. This was full-scale conquest. Kingdom after kingdom began to fall. Only one Anglo-Saxon kingdom held out, Wessex, led by a young king named Alfred. Alfred fought a desperate, near-impossible war, and against all odds, he held his kingdom together. Eventually, a treaty divided England in two and gave the Vikings legal control over half the country. That territory became known as the Danelaw, and something surprising happened next. The raiders became neighbors. Norse settlers intermarried with local Anglo-Saxons, blending language, customs, and even law. Entire English towns still carry Norse names today, a quiet fingerprint of that unlikely coexistence. York, once a Viking stronghold, grew into one of the richest trading cities in all of Northern Europe. For many Vikings, the raid that once brought conflict eventually became something else entirely, a home. England wasn't the only place raiding turned into settlement. In France, a similar deal was struck. In 911, Norse leader Rollo was granted land in exchange for loyalty, creating the region we now call Normandy. Generations later, the descendants of these Vikings would reshape European history entirely. In 1066, Norman forces, descendants of Vikings, invaded England once again, this time as conquerors. That invasion changed England forever, closing one chapter of Viking history while opening another. But the Viking story wasn't only about raiding and conquest. Some Norse sailors turned their skills toward the unknown. In the late 800s, Norse settlers discovered and colonized Iceland, a harsh, volcanic, but livable new frontier. A few generations later, an exiled Norseman named Eric the Red pushed even further, discovering Greenland. Against incredible odds, Norse settlers built farming communities on the edge of the Arctic itself. But Eric's son, Leif Erikson, went even further, sailing west into land no European had ever recorded. Around 1000 AD, Leif Erikson reached North America, nearly 5 centuries before Christopher Columbus. They called it Vinland, but the settlement didn't last. Distance, isolation, and conflict made it impossible to hold. Back home, Scandinavia itself was changing. Christian missionaries began arriving, challenging the old Norse gods. One by one, Norse kings converted, sometimes out of faith and sometimes for political advantage. As kings converted, so did their kingdoms, and the old Norse religion slowly faded from daily life. By the 11th century, most of Scandinavia had formally converted to Christianity. Meanwhile, Europe adapted. Coastal towns built walls, trained defenders, and stopped being easy targets. At the same time, trade became more profitable and far less risky than raiding ever was. Scandinavia itself became more centralized, with kings gaining enough control to limit independent raiding. By the mid-11th century, the age of raiding had quietly come to an end. So what did the Viking Age actually leave behind? Far more than most people realize. Their language shaped English itself. Words like sky, window, and law all trace back to Old Norse. Iceland and Greenland remain populated to this day, permanent legacies of Viking exploration. Even our modern fascination with Vikings, in shows, games, and stories, proves how deeply their legend endures. The Viking raids weren't just violence. They were a story of survival, ambition, and a people who reshaped the world around them.